Okay. We left off Mem Vav and Aleph. Okay. Okay. We were discussing yesterday. The Mishnah has two cases. The Mishnah has two cases. If a man goes and says hiskachi, hiskachi betam razu, hiskachi betam razu, marry me with this date, marry with this date. So the halacha is we see that each statement or each action is a separate action, unrelated to the other. So we don't combine the value of the dates. So if one of the dates is a Shava Pruta, she's married. But if all the dates individually are post Shava Pruta, we don't combine the value of the dates, she's Eina Mukadeshes. What happens if he says, marry me with bezu, 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 with this and that and that, although the dates themselves, each one is post Shava Pruta, since combined it's one act of marriage, so we add the value of the dates. If they all add up to be a Shava Pruta, she's Mukadeshes. That's the Mishnah. The case of the Mishnah says bezu, bezu, bezu. We'll go bezu, bezu, bezu. Okay? So less man the public. Nobody argues this case. Okay? Discussion in shurs. Okay. So Mar has, but it says what happens as he gives her the date. He gives her one, she eats it, and she gives her another one, she eats it, another one, she eats it. So the Mishnah says that she's only married achiu ba'achsmei Shava Pruta. If one of them was a Shava Pruta, then she's Mukadeshes. But if you have to combine them, and she already had eaten the post Shava Pruta, then we don't combine it. Pennies. Okay. Let's stick on this now. That's the first parak. That was a different discussion. No relevance. No relevance. No relevance. No relevance. No. Could I ask you a question? That's a question of bracha. It's called eating. What happens if she would have destroyed it? She would have thrown it into the fire. The eating is only a means that it no longer exists. Let's see, he gives her one and she takes it, she throws it into a fire. Then he gives her another one. So it's irrelevant. What you're discussing is halacha to be considered an achila. It has to be within a certain time frame. It's beyond that. It's not called you've eaten it. Here we're talking about what did you receive. So we only consider that you receive value only if it exists to bring about kiddushin, if the item he gave you exists at the time of the conclusion. So when do we combine all of them? I mean, that's the question that Martin asked. Which case are we speaking about? If it's the first case, which each action is a separate action, because he said hiskachi multiple times, it's irrelevant whether it exists or didn't, because when he gave it to her, that was the act. If it was a Shava Pruta, she's married. Posum Shava Pruta is not married. That's going to be the Gemara's question. And if it's the last case, well, why should it make a difference? We combine all the eatings, right? That's going to be the Gemara's discussion. Ahayo. Mean the concluding statement of Mishnah, do we apply it on what does it go? Do we apply it on the first statement or on the concluding, the second case? Ilema ratio. Is it going on the first case, which he said hiskachi multiple times? Ma'ir ocheles. What do I have to say? The reason why she's not mukudeshes. If it's supposed to be Shava Pruta because she ate it, afilu manachas nami. Even if the date remains intact, she left the date. She did not consume it. Dog hiskachi li bezu kamar. He did multiple acts of kiddushin. So if it was a Shava Pruta, she's married. Post Shava Pruta, so she's not married because he didn't give her something of sufficient value. Ella, clearly, we must say aseifa. It's going on the concluding case. Mar says, "Vafilu b'kamaisa." So he asks. He says, "Afilu b'kamaisa." So what are we going on? Even on the first case, even on the first date. So Mar says, "Well, milvi." Now, when is he concluding the marriage? He's giving her all the dates, right? He says, but if she ate it, how do we say if it was Shava Pruta she's married? Vo milvehi. The first parak we rule, nobody argued. Makarash milvehi mukadeshes. Right? By the time he concluded, it was a milveh. Omar, one second. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says, so we say it's going on the concluding case. Vo milvehi. Rashi says, since the kiddushin is not complete until she received all that he intended to give her, she's already consumed the first date, although it was a shavuot pruta, before he gave her all the dates. So if that's the case, so the first one is a milveh. So when it concludes, what is he mekadosh with what? With all the dates he had given her. But since she already ate the date, the first date is only what no longer exists. It's a milveh, and it's a mekadosh milveh ein mekudeshes. We'll discuss this in a minute. Okay? Even though we'll see it's not exactly comparable. Go ahead. He says, Bizu, she eats it. Bizu, she eats it. Bizu, she eats it. No, because it's finished. Once he gave her Sheva Pruta, she's married. No, we know what the value is. We evaluated what it is. Each one is marked. No, we're not trying to figure out which was a Pruta. No. It's two separate discussions. Let's say you have 3 dates. Each one's marked. A penny, less than a penny, and less than a penny. It says, Iskachli Bizu. And he gives her the date that's marked, that's been evaluated to be a penny. There's nothing more to discuss. She's married. This is done in the presence of witnesses. Is she married? She's married. Not the proposal, the full marriage. He's married her. So what she ate it afterwards, it's irrelevant. So that's the most question. So that's the question. The act of marriage hasn't been completed yet. The act of marriage hasn't been completed yet. So what is it complete when he gives her the final date? Right? So the question is, even if the first one, if they're not Shavuot Pruta, you say maybe you can't combine it. But factually, if you gave her the first one Shavuot Pruta, it says it's not a problem. But it should be a problem, because since when she ate the first one, the marriage wasn't concluded yet, the act of marriage. So now when he wants to conclude it, it's something she ate. So it's equivalent of what? That she owes him. So because she owes him, because she ate. See, Tosas can discuss a case like this. What is the concept of the Kaddish Milveh Ein Mekudeshes? We discussed this. Right? A woman borrows money, $1,000. I'm marrying with the money that you owe me. Is he giving her anything now? Not giving her. The money that he's marrying with, it's already hers. He's absolving her of the debt. Let's say he says, Bahanos Mechilas Milveh, with the value of waiving the debt, so he's giving us something right now, which is minimally a Shavuot Pruta. Right? That's how we differentiate it. Over here, he gave her the date in marriage. He gave her the date for the sake of marriage. He never gave it as a milveh. He never gave it as a loan. However, the act of marriage wasn't concluded until she gave her the final date. So Gemara says, if she eats it, and now it's concluded later, the first date is a milveh. What is a milveh? I never gave it to you as a loan. I gave it to you as an act of marriage. And now Tosas asked a question, but later in the parak we discuss a case. A man gives a woman money. Here's $100, and I want the marriage to take effect in 30 days from now. And she consumes the money before the 30-day period comes. Now, very interesting. There's a concept known as kolsa kinyono. If I want to acquire something, let's say with a document, you give me a deed, that the deed should acquire the property in 30 days from now, right? So the instrument of transfer is the deed. Let's say but when the 30-day period comes, the deed was destroyed, was burnt, or went lost. It's not a valid transaction. Because since the instrument of transfer no longer exists at the time when it's taking effect, she's Ein Mekudeshes. Excuse me, the person doesn't acquire the field. Okay? But if I give you, let's say, money, I give you money, since the money was given, even if the recipient, the receiver, spends the money, nevertheless, it's a valid transaction. So the Gemara says, why is there a difference between the document or the money? Because when I give you money, the fact is I gave you the money. There is a debt. So because there is a shibud, you're indebted to me because of the money that I gave you, therefore the debt is sufficient, so there's a remnant of that to allow the transfer to take place. But if the document is destroyed, There's no remnant of that original kinyon. And if there's no remnant of the kinyon when the transfer takes place, it's not a valid transfer. Wait 1 second. This is called kolsa kinyonu. If the kinyon, the instrument of transfer, doesn't exist at the time of the transfer, it's not a valid transfer. It's not a valid transaction. So therefore, if you're mekadosh an isha with a shtar, with a document, harei mekadeshes li b'shtar zeh la'achar shloshim yom. In 30 days, you should be married to me. Take the document now. And she loses the document. The document's destroyed. And when the 30-day period on the calendar comes, the document no longer exists. She's not married. She's any mekadeshes because the document's not there. What about, the Gemara says, if you gave her money, she spent the money. There's no remnant, there's no trace of the money. When 30 days comes, she's mekadeshes. Why? Because the original money was given to her what? Not as a loan. It was given to her specifically for marriage. So the act originally was an act of marriage. However, it would take effect in 30 days. She's mekadeshes. So Tosas asks, in our case over here, he gives a date 1, Shavuot Pruta. And he says, bezu, bezu, bezu. By the time we come to the closing date, she ate the first date. Someone asks, why she mekudeshes? Even if it's a Shavuot Pruta, it's milveh. It's the equivalent of a loan. What do you mean it's equivalent of? When he gave her that first date, he didn't give it her as a loan. And now he wants to convert it into marriage, right? He gave it to her specifically for the marriage. So why she ate mekudeshes? It's not milveh. It's not comparable to the case of the loan. That's Tosas' question. Andrew, you had a question? Okay. It's towards. That's exactly what Tosas is asking. The Gemara doesn't retract from this. The Gemara does not retract. Tosas doesn't say. There's no havmi. This is the maskana. The Gemara says it's milveh. No, so Tosas, I'll tell you Tosas' answer in a minute. Tosas answers the question. He differentiates.
Otherwise, as soon as he says bezu, and she takes it with the Shavuot Pruta, finished.
Definitely. Token de dibur.
So rather, in the case of the money that he deferred marriage, man gives the woman the money, she accepts 30 days later, but in the meantime this man dies. What about his heirs? Can they go back after the money?
We're going to discuss the case on the second side of the page. The man gives money, goes to his sister, and he says, Harei mukadeshes li, with his bag of money. To his sister. Sister, it's not discussed. Wait, it's not discussed in the elementary, this question. Okay? So the Gemara has a question. So Machlokes of Rav and Shmuel, did he mean to give it to her as a gift? Or because everybody knows she cannot marry a sister. Or did he mean to give it to her as an object that she should be the custodian? There's not, so that the question is she permitted to keep it? Right? If it was a matana, a gift, so she's permitted to keep it. The husband has no claim. The brother has no claim to the money. But so same thing. So if he would die, his heirs have no claim. But if it's a pikodon, it's only given to you for safekeeping. Zamar says, but if it was pikodon, so why did he say pikodon? I'll give it to you for safekeeping. If it's a gift, he should have said a gift. Why did he give it a marriage? So each one has his reason. Because if he would have said a gift, he didn't want to embarrass his sister. You know, you mean you want to give me a gift? So therefore I said marriage, just to save face. And the other one says, no. He says, what about, it's a gift? What, it's a pikodon? No, because she wouldn't have taken the pikodon. She said, what am I? I'm your, whatever it is. I'm your lackey. So therefore he says marriage. In the meantime, you know, they tell them a story many years ago. There was this person, he was a miser, and he was going on vacation. So he parked his car, wherever it was, and what was it?
He went to the bank and...
what was the case again?
He went to the bank and he asked them for... He left it as collateral.
He left it as collateral. Left it as collateral. And he came back, he paid it. He said he didn't have to pay parking. Parked it in the bank's parking lot. So that's where he saved himself. He wanted his assistant to be his custodian, but he knows she's not going to accept. You know, as the family feud. So I'll marry you. Okay? So she'll keep it, and legally I'll take it to Bezdin, and I'll recoup what I gave her as my object for safekeeping. Okay. So this will be a similar question. There's a question. If later it turns out that it's not going to be a marriage, he has what the Gemara is going to say. He has to give it back.
She has to return.
She would have to return it.
So it was a loan.
It wasn't. It was only turned out to be a loan because it was not a marriage. I'm only giving to you if the marriage is a marriage. I'm not just giving you a gift. If we're married, I'm more than happy it should be yours. But if it's not a marriage, I'm not interested in giving gifts.
If it's characterized as a loan,
But it's not a
then
loan.
the
It's not a loan. It's not a loan. It's not a loan. It's not a loan. It's a conditional. It's like a conditional marriage. Right. That's what it is. A loan is something else.
So what is the basis of the heirs getting the money back? What is the
Because that father only gave it to you if you can be his wife. And you never turned out to be his wife. He only gave you the money. It's like a person gets an engagement ring, and they never get married. So the groom says, the prospective groom says, I only gave you this engagement ring if we're going to be married. I want the ring back, right? So does he have a claim? It's the same story, right? So the right thing, she should give it back. Well, what you put me through, I'm not giving it back to you. Okay, that's a separate discussion. But factually, he only gave it, right? No, it's not a gift, Almanah. It's not a gift. It's not a gift. What, the engagement ring is because you're going to be my wife. So as first stage, I'm happy.
If you don't fulfill the condition.
Right, correct. It's a conditional. It's a conditional. Not a conditional gift. I'm giving you only on the condition that the money is going to be married for the sake of marriage. It's not the sake of marriage, and I want my money back.
consume the money in
So
the meantime?
it becomes a debt.
It
It becomes a debt only if it's not a marriage.
not a
But the question is, why isn't it a marriage? That's the question. That's Tosa's question.
why?
Because initially it was given as for marriage, and she's agreeable to marry him, and he wants to marry her. But since we say it was consumed, it's a milveh. Well, why is it a milveh? That's Tosa's question. It was given for the sake of marriage. Shavet pruta. If a merchant says Harei Mukadeshes Li with a ton of manure, okay, is she married? You got to think about it. Shavet pruta. Shavet pruta.
So the heirs come to her after this man dies, and she says to him, I'm not giving the money back because in the meantime I got 3 other proposals of marriage for much higher amounts of money, and I turned them all down. I was ready to go forward.
It's nothing to. It's
I
irrelevant.
consumed the money already.
But she has to return it because it was only given to her for the sake of marriage. If it turned out not to be marriage, you owe him the money. Let's say a person marries a woman conditionally. Let's say marriage is a mekachtos. Mekachtos. He married, then he turns out she has certain physical. She has a physical condition. Clearly, he wouldn't want to marry such a woman. She definitely has to give them the money back. Well, I had 6 other proposals despite my physical ailment. It's irrelevant. But I gave it to you on the condition that you could be my wife. Otherwise, I'm not going to give you a gift. Exactly. 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 Exactly.
Meantime, the money is a deposit.
That's the question.
What is the money?
No, it was deposited towards marriage. Okay? It's like you put money in an escrow account, and you have to have enough money in the account to conclude the deal. Right? That's what it is. Okay, so that's Tosa's question. Why is it a Gemara says Vamilve? Wait a second. Om Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says, so if you answered, it's going on to the conclusion of the Mishnah. So he said, but your answer, he says, Harei Shulchan Harei Bos Harei Sakin Ve'nonu Lechu. You explained everything why it's going to say, but after everything's said and done, we have the table, we have the food, we have the knife, but you can't eat it. How do you digest it? How do we process the understanding of the conclusion of the Mishnah? Right? Why is she Mukudeshes? She should not be Mukudeshes because it's Milveh. Right? That's Rabbi Yochanan's question. You said it's understood why it can't be the ratio. It must be the Sefer. But factually, after everything's said and done, we're at square one. We don't understand what's going on because it's Milveh. So let me tell you what Tosas answers. Tosas answers the difference between the case later in the parak. I give you a amount about Harei Mukudeshesli with $1,000 that the marriage should take effect in 30 days from now. And meantime, when 30 days come, she consumed the money. Money no longer exists. She's Mukudeshes. Why? Factually, he did a complete act of marriage immediately. But the effect only takes place in 30 days. But the act was an act of marriage. Here, the act of marriage was not concluded until he gave her the last date. So you cannot classify that as a Maisa Kiddushin. Therefore, the first date, if it was consumed, you don't say that date because it was given in marriage, it's called an act of marriage. It's not an act of marriage. The money is owed. At the time when the marriage, take the act that will affect it, you have to give her the money. And the money doesn't exist. Therefore, it's a milveh. That's what Tosfos differentiates between the case later in the parak and this particular case here. Because here the act of marriage was not concluded as an act of marriage. Okay? If he gives her the full amount, if he gives her the full amount for marriage, so the act of marriage was concluded. I gave you so much money, it was concluded. No, it's not retroactive. To take effect in 30 days. So I did a full Maisa Kiddushin, but the effect is delayed 30 days. Therefore, it's irrelevant whether the money exists or doesn't exist. As long as there's a remnant of that act, she's Mukadeshes. So since there's a shibud, since she took the money and she's indebted to him because she accepted it for marriage, the marriage is effective in 30 days. Here, the act of marriage wasn't concluded because it was only concluded after he gave her the closing date, the last date. So since she ate the first date before the last date was given, therefore it's considered she's any good. No, even if it was a penny. I'm going to marry you with 3 dates. Because he says, I'm marrying you with 3 dates. So I determine what the act of marriage is. The act of marriage is only if they give you all 3 dates. By the time I came to the 3rd date, the first date was consumed. Right? So therefore, when the act of marriage was concluded, the first date no longer existed. So there, as a result, therefore, it's milveh. That's the Gemara's question. Okay, let's leave the first parak out right now. Okay, you review it, and then we'll talk about it. 1 second, we have a few minutes. He said clearly, bezu, bezu, bezu. He says clearly, the Edom understand. It's not 1 date. He has 3 dates, and they understand where he's going. Otherwise, it's understood. It's already concluded after the first date. Okay? Rabbi Shmuel Damri Tavayu. Rabbi Shmuel Olam Reisha. Rabbi Shmuel say, factually it's going in the Reisha. So we had the question, if it's the Reisha, what do we have? Each date is a separate act of marriage. So we asked, what do we have to discuss? She ate it, even if she didn't eat it. If it's supposed to be Shabbat Prut, it's not a consideration. Lolam Reisha, V'lo boy Kamar. What the Mishnah means to say like this. Lomi boy man nachas dika Shabbat Pruta. If he would have given her the date, which she didn't consume the date, and it's a Shabbat Pruta, of course she's married. In Ilolo, but let's say he gives her post Shabbat Pruta, and she retains it, it's understood it's not a marriage. The Reisha, where each one's a separate act. Avalo cheles, but if she eats it, whole mekarva hanaiso, emo gomer makanyu nafsho. But here, where she eats it, where she has benefit, I'd say maybe, even though the object itself was supposed to be Shabbat Pruta, but since over here she had physical benefit from it, that will make the difference, and that will be the equivalent of being a Shabbat Pruta. Kamash Malon, the Mishnah says, since factually what she benefited was supposed to be Shabbat Pruta, she's not married. She's not married. So again, it's Archian over here. It's difficult. Tosfos asked the question. I mean, factually, if an item is supposed to be Shabbat Pruta, regardless of how hungry you are, you gave us something less than the value of Pruta. That's why I mentioned the Gemara yesterday in Daf Gimel. Right? Chalipin. Kesef means you're marrying with a kinyan kesef. Kinyan kesef means that has to be Shabbat Pruta. It's not a Shabbat Pruta. She's Ein Mukadeshes. So because she has benefit, she doesn't have benefit, but factually consumed an item, which is supposed to be Shabbat Pruta. She's Ein Mukadeshes.
It's not going to be
more than Shabbat Pruta. More than that's Tosfos Kasha. So Tosfos answers, he says a chiddush. The Gemara now wants to make a tzrichusa. For the Tana to add another case, even though it's understood, but nevertheless the Tana will do such a thing. You understand? If the Tana would just write one case, and this would be the case, you give a post Shabbat Pruta. She's Ein Mukadeshes. So what do you even have to discuss it? But over here we want to fully present all sides of the issue. He will, although it's something which is simple and understood. That's what Tosfos answers. To flesh out all sides of the issue. Okay, we'll continue. Kaddish.